Hey you, yeah you who clicked on this video. Thanks for giving our channel a shot. And if you will, please do us the honor of watching the video all the way through. Appreciate it. Now onto the video.
Have you ever wondered why current day entertainment seems to miss far more than it hits? Seems to be boring and just full of a lot of ideas that you're just not interested in, or characters that just seem to fall flat and become boring as the show, movie, or game goes on? Well, the reason for this is because of what we call woke entertainment tropes. Now, these tropes come in various forms, and the various forms in which they come in basically turn audiences off, especially after years and years of this type of messaging. Today, we're going to talk about one such trope, which is identity politics. Identity politics, which is defined by Merriam-Webster as politics in which groups of people having a particular racial, religious, ethnic, social, or cultural identity tend to promote their own specific interests or concerns without regard to the interests or concerns of any larger political group. Now, in terms of entertainment, we've seen this many a time. It kind of started in the early aughts and kind of moved on from there. But if we want to talk about current examples, one of those examples would be Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is a blatant example of identity politics, especially the scene in which Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, played by Anthony Mackie, goes into a bank to get a loan to basically keep his family's boating business afloat, and is summarily denied, seemingly because of his race. And this is one form of identity politics that's seen in television series. This also happened in the Miss Marvel series on Disney Plus, where Kamala Khan mentions that it's never the brown girls from Jersey that save the world.
It's not really the brown girls from Jersey City who save the world.
Or Ruby Rose in Batwoman, asserting that the bat suit will be perfect when it's worn by a woman.
I need you to fix his suit.
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be. When it fits a woman.
You see, in television series where identity politics don't necessarily belong, or if they are involved in some way, shouldn't be thrown around so heavy-handedly, we see that this type of storytelling usually takes the audience completely out of the experience. This also happens in movies as well. So we have movies like Bros, in which also was a box office failure, by the way, but in this particular film, it focuses on sexual identity of the characters rather than telling a comedic story with funny jokes that's meant to entertain the audience, but rather pushes more of an ideological message that didn't resonate with the movie-going audience. We've also seen this creep into video games, and this is an interesting phenomenon for such an interactive medium. So, for instance, in the game Overwatch, which is produced by Activision Blizzard, they have basically created a bunch of alphabet or LGBTQ type characters, and we see that there is a parallel to this happening in the game whenever they're about to unleash some bad news to the player base, or whenever they're trying to basically mask the fact that they have indulged in various human rights abuses. The company Activision Blizzard, they seem to try to trot out these types of tropes in order to basically try to hide the idea that they are a company full of abusers. So how does this look in other video games? Well, in Naughty Dog's The Last of Us series, they give you a poignant and fantastic storytelling experience with great gameplay, only to then try to come in the back end, in the case of the first Last of Us, and insert identity politics in the form of the character Ellie, making her a lesbian after the fact. So basically, after the fan base has already committed to the franchise, that's when it's introduced. Then in the sequel, they double down on this, which basically introduces characters like Lem, who is apparently a trans child, not to mention other various identity politic tropes and themes. Then we see this again in Aloy in the Horizon Zero Dawn franchise, in which 2 games have gone by, and her sexuality and, gender politic has never really come into the focus of the series, but with the release of the DLC to the second Horizon game, Horizon Forbidden West, they then introduced the idea that Aloy is now a lesbian. So basically, it's almost a bait and switch, but it's a little bit more clever than that. So what they do is they tell you a good story throughout the base game, and then they come around the back end and introduce you to the ideological component, thinking that basically you'll get over it because you're already invested in the characters and the storyline, which I find very interesting. But we also see this trope in many other cases. So what is the purpose of this trope? Well, in the case of established franchises like Star Wars or the MCU and others, it's used for various reasons. In the case of Marvel, it's a convenient way to preach to an existing fan base and capitalize on the popularity of these characters, all while increasing the ESG score, which is basically a social credit score that corporations use to secure funding from companies like BlackRock. In gaming, it's used to virtue signal to the dying games journalism industry, in some cases to obfuscate wrongdoing or unethical practices, like in the case of Activision Blizzard. So what are the effects of this trope in this form of storytelling? Well, initially when this trope came to prominence, it tended to divide fans, like in the case of the Star Wars sequel trilogy or in the case of movies like Ghostbusters 2016, creating factions who were either opposed to being preached at and lectured to by Hollyweird, or a faction of fans who either didn't see it as a big deal or wanted to push what they perceived as progressive storytelling. However, as time went on, the normies who didn't see identity politics as an issue have slowly become self-aware and have grown an aversion to this messaging and have overwhelmingly decided to opt out for paying for this type of woke nonsense. The evidence of this is movies like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, or as I like to call it, the Dial of Elder Abuse, bombing at the box office. Or MCU films like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which push not only gender ideology but also socialism in its narrative, failing to capitalize on the Marvel brand. And before you even try to mention the idea of superhero fatigue, remember that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse broke records and performed better than all other Marvel properties released this year. So, what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson is basically that if Hollyweird is so focused on making identity politics-laced propaganda that they forget to entertain their audience with good storytelling and fun characters, they shouldn't be surprised when ticket sales, viewership, and game sales decline. So, with that said, guys, tell us what you think about this particular trope of using identity politics in storytelling to the point where fans just don't really see the need to watch or consume this type of content. What do you think? Do you think it's not that big of a deal? Or do you think that Hollyweird is getting their just desserts when it comes to fan backlash? Sound off in the comments section below, and we'll see you on the next one. 8-Bit Heroes out. Peace.
If you'd like to get a shout out on the channel, then hit that like button, maybe share it with a couple of friends, and do us the biggest honor of all, and subscribe to the channel so you can join the 8-Bit Heroes family. And while you're at it, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when our new videos come out.